if everybody can just acknowledge the grief that's in the room and that everybody's feeling it, it goes a long way in helping both the kid and the caregiver and the teacher out if everybody's having the conversations. For George and for many of us, and myself included, that first year is really shock. You can't even really wrap your head around it. You're very sad too, but it's almost too hard to process. And so for the first year, I think we were walking zombies, and it is shock. And with that shock comes a heavy sadness and sorrow, and you sort of shut yourself off from everything. And then I think as the journey's progressed, he's had all the classic feelings of grief, of that loss of what my life was supposed to be like, the direction things were supposed to go, and also the anger and frustration that comes with that. And then they are intertwined. And I think for everyone, grief is just such an overwhelming feeling. There was a spectrum of behaviors. I think some of was just like withdrawing and not paying attention. So not necessarily disruptive or anything, but then concerns about, is he learning? And then there was also the extreme of like, it was just overwhelming and frustrating, that he felt like there was too much material coming at him. And it wasn't because he couldn't do it, but the idea of like, I'm gonna have to get these assignments done on these dates, and yet just was too much, and really required somebody to sit down with him and say, no, okay, let's look at a calendar. Let's figure out what we need to do. And maybe we need to say, for you, George, you're not going to do these 3 assignments. There are classes you're doing fine in. We don't need to worry about it. Let's just try to get a chunk of the work done as opposed to the whole thing. And accommodating in that way, I think, was what was really helpful. And also validating, saying, wow, it does, from your perspective, seem like a ton of work. And we all need that in life. But I think especially as a kid, it's really important to be able to sit down and say, yeah, I could see how this is a lot for you. Let's find an easier way to get this done. For an educator, having to call a grieving parent or caregiver is a tough job. It's never easy to call a parent and be like, hey, your kid's having some problems, because no parent wants that phone call. But I think it is important for educators to remember that those parents are struggling too, or caregivers, it's not always a parent. And just acknowledging that there's other people struggling in the situation, and just trying to take the team approach of like, how are we all going to solve this? And how can we all do this together is really important. I think for these kids, they just need to know that all the adults are supporting them and that they're doing the same things. Like everyone's on the same team to help them is what's really important.